Hello everyone, I'm Sharon Collier. I'm a homeschooling mother of 4 children and I make farm life, lifestyle, homeschool videos here on my channel. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe down below. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about this book right here, The Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. Alright, you guys, this book is amazing. Like, it is so good. Like, if you're gonna homeschool, like, you should read this book. I don't care what kind of homeschooling you're gonna do. This is the book for you. Or I feel that way anyway. So it says The Brave Learner, Finding Everyday Magic in Homeschool Learning and Life by Julie Bogart. So this woman, I don't know much about her. I've only read this book, but she's homeschooled and I'm assuming her whole life. Sorry, all of her children's lives. Okay, so yeah, she homeschooled her 5 now grown children for 17 years and is the founder of the Homeschool Alliance, which supports homeschooling parents through coaching and teaching. So this book, it doesn't have a method, like it's not classical or what's Charlotte Mason or unschooling. It's more just about like how to invite learning into your home. I would recommend reading this book every year. Like, I'm going to read this book every year, and it's so good, and I feel like there is so much in this book. Like, every time you read it, you could probably just get something new and different that you didn't get last time. There's so much good information in it. So I would recommend reading it every year before the school year. I'm gonna do that. So to be honest, I actually listened to it. I didn't read the physical book, which I would recommend having the book. And I would also recommend reading it, but for me, it's more realistic and easy to listen to an audiobook than it is to read it. So I listened to it, but while I was listening to it, like the whole time, I was like, oh, I wish I was reading this. Like, I wish I could just write down things. So if you are going to read this, I would sit down with a piece of paper to write down notes, or if you write in books, maybe with a little pen. I mean, I don't know if I'd do that, but yes. So I guess the whole point of this is have the physical book. And if you need to listen to it, but I would recommend having the physical book. But if you are going to buy a physical book and then it's going to sit on your shelf and you're never going to read it, which I am guilty of multiple times. But anyway, then I would get the audiobook. It's worth listening to if you don't have the time to read it. Well, let me just give you an overview. I'll give you an overview of like what the book's about, and then I will tell you main points that I got from it. But I mean, yet again, there is so much information. Like, just like going through the physical copy of the book to refresh my mind of what I wanted to talk about. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so good. Like, I forgot about that. Oh, that's so good. I forgot about that. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, there's a ton of stuff in here. But anyway, okay, so part 1 is the enchanted landscape of learning. Part 2 is casting the spell, the superpower of brave learning. Part 3 is sustaining the magic, and part 4 is breaking the spell and rekindling the magic. So the enchanted landscape of learning. In that one, it's basically about creating an environment of interest and learning. So, for example, like she talks about having like a place where your kids can just be creative and they have the tools to be creative and it's their place and it's messy and don't expect it to be perfect and Pinterest worthy, but just letting them have a place of their own to just be creative. That was really cool to hear. She talks about learning to find ways to learn about subjects with an interest they already have. And she talks about her son No, she didn't talk about her son. She gives an example of piano. And she tells you how to do it. She tells you, like, how to write it down and figure it out. Okay, here it is. So she uses the example of piano. So, like, history of the instrument, composer biographies, genres of music. So that's a section of history you can do off a piano. Religion. Let's see. Literature, musical notation, reading music, sheet music, variety of pieces, film, novels. Anyway, she breaks things off. She helps you figure out how to break things off from a subject that your child already loves and building upon their interest that they already have. And I thought that was a great idea. And then she also, in that section, she also talks about building a fire, building a learning fire, and how there's a spark, and the spark will die if you don't add kindling to it. So, like, if your child is like, whoa, Mom, look at this. They have a cool pyramid in this movie. That's so cool. You could take that spark of interest and add kindling, like, whoa, let's go rent some books about pyramids. Let's go get on the computer and learn about pyramids. But, like, anyway, she does better at this, way better than me. But that idea is really cool. And she talks about, like, creating sparks for them while helping to create sparks and helping to just create this enchanted learning space in your home. So the second section is about casting the spell. She talks about, for example, the 4 forces of enchantment: surprise, mystery, risk, and adventure. So she talks about, like, using surprise. I think she gives the example in this part where, like, you just, like, leave something on your coffee table. And then the next morning you don't say anything. The next morning the kids come out and they'll notice it, right? And maybe that's the wrong example. But she does talk about that. But anyway, she talks about using those elements to help enchant your children. And then she also talks about, like, I think it's called Hoopa. I'm not sure. But she talks about, like, making things cozy and inviting and using different things to make them feel good and, like, want to be there. The next thing is sustaining the magic. She talks about like, how to, so you have your interest, you have your spark, and you've created the environment that you wanted and things are going, but how do you keep it going? And so she gives you, like, practical ways to keep it going and keep the interest going. And also she talks about scheduling, and one of the things I really liked about scheduling was that she talked about, like, backwards planning. So instead of being like, oh, we need to get this and this and this and this and this done today, which can also cause a lot of stress, because if you don't get it all done, then you're like, or, like, you're like, I have to get this done, just hurry and work, you know? So instead of doing that, you backwards plan. So at the end of the day, you write everything you got done. And she talks about writing down things you wouldn't necessarily think were schooling, but are actually learning. Like, things you wouldn't think is learning, but actually are. And she obviously puts this in a way better light than I do, but I just want to give you an idea of what it is about. The last section is breaking the spell and rekindling the magic. That chapter, like, was a big one for me. But it basically talks about, like, when life is hard and life is sucking, how to continue to do it. She talks about, like, dysfunctional families and how to overcome things like that. She talks about when your family is hurting, and so, like, schooling is learning is not going very well because your children are hurting and your family is hurting. One thing she talked about that I really liked was what's the weather, and then she gives an example of like, hold on, let me give you a part. So like blue skies and sunshine equals the best day. Everyone is happy, their needs are being met, there is a positive vibe, relationships have been nurtured. Partly sunny equals all is well, but maybe some needs a little something extra. Lightning bolt is tension in the air. Rain, tears, windy, a storm is brewing or blowing in. Cloudy, nothing wrong necessarily, but no joy that day either, just sort of met. So like she talks about what is the weather, finding the weather of your family, which I really love that idea because sometimes we have some really hard days and there's a lot of tears, and just being aware of your family's emotional well-being. And then she also talks about like when you have problems, how to keep learning when your family is like going through trials, like maybe cancer or someone's sick or there's or you're moving or you're getting divorced. And the last chapter is about like continuing to learn even through the struggles of life, basically. And it also talks about like the tone of your voice and, you know, is your family doing well emotionally. But anyway, I really like that chapter because sometimes we do struggle with our family doing well emotionally, and there are a lot of tears sometimes. And anyway, this book is amazing. I gave you such a very skim version, and I hope you guys will read this. Like, if you could take anything away from this video, like, I mean, obviously this video is dedicated to this, but go read it. I did not do this book justice at all. It's so good, and it is worth the read. If you like seeing videos of me talking about books, which I love books, so if you want to see more videos like that, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below what your favorite book is for being a parent or homeschooling, either or, whatever you want. I love reading. I love getting new recommendations, and make sure to subscribe if you like this content, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.